A man stands in a field with dirt under his fingernails and his brother's blood on his hands. And it does carry the weight of a divine origin story. But if you look closer at the sheer volume of deception, at the toxic favoritism, and when Rachel finally has a son of her own, the father makes a terrible visual declaration of his favoritism. He hands the boy a piece of clothing that will set the entire family on fire. When we read about the famous coat of many colors, we often imagine a simple mark of parental affection. We picture a brightly woven piece of fabric, a harmless gift given to a beloved son. But in the cultural architecture of the ancient Near East, this garment is a devastating psychological weapon. Scholars point out that the Hebrew phrase ketonet pasim likely refers to a long-sleeved, ornamented tunic, the kind of garment worn by royalty or overseers. You cannot herd sheep in a long-sleeved tunic. You cannot pull water from a well or shear livestock wearing embroidered fabric stretching down to your wrists. When Jacob hands this coat to 17-year-old Joseph, he is making a loud, undeniable statement to his older sons. You are the laborers who will work in the dirt. And this boy is the supervisor who will rule over you. The father takes the generational trauma of his own youth and sews it right into the fabric of his son's clothing. At the generational trauma, passed like a dark inheritance, from parent to child, you start to see something the hero reading completely misses. Look at the psychological toll this takes on the household in Genesis chapter 37. Verse 4. The brothers see the coat. They recognize the favoritism. And the text says they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. The English translation barely scratches the surface of the hostility. The Hebrew word translated as peaceably is the noun shalom. Shalom does not merely mean a polite greeting or the absence of a fistfight. In ancient Hebrew linguistics, shalom implies wholeness, completeness, and structural integrity. It is a word used to describe uncut stones gathered for an altar, or a massive debt that has been fully paid off. It means all the separate pieces of a system are functioning in perfect, unified harmony. When the text says they could not speak shalom to him, it means the structural integrity of the family had entirely collapsed. The coat was not a harmless gift. It was the death of their shared reality. The older brothers, the sons of the unloved Leah, and the servant women finally snap. They see the favored boy walking toward them in the distant fields of Dothan, his heavy, colorful fabric visible from miles away, and they strip it off his back. They throw him into an empty, waterless cistern, leaving him to suffocate in the dark, dry earth. Genesis is not a gallery of flawless saints. It is an autopsy of human dysfunction. The real question of this book isn't, how were they so holy? And as the boy screams for his life from the bottom of the black pit, the brothers sit down in the dust and chew their bread. They sell their own flesh and blood to a passing caravan for pieces of silver. And then, in a terrifying echo of their father's own history, they take the beautiful coat, slaughter a goat, and drench the fabric in its thick, red blood. Jacob once used a slaughtered goat to deceive his father and steal a blessing. Now, his sons use a slaughtered goat to deceive him and steal away his favorite child. The dysfunction has come full circle, but the story of this shattered family does not end with a blood-stained coat in a Canaanite tent. It moves to the highest throne room of a foreign empire, where the ultimate test is waiting. Years pass. The rains stop. The famine hits. The ground turns to dust. 10 brothers travel south to survive. They walk into the massive capital of Egypt. They stand before the vizier of the empire. They bow their faces to the cold stone floor. They do not recognize the man in the Egyptian makeup, but he recognizes them. Joseph looks at the men who threw him in a hole. He does not execute them. He does not embrace them. He tests them. He accuses them of treason. He locks Simeon in a dungeon. He demands they bring their youngest brother. He fills their sacks with grain. It is this. Why did God tether his reputation to a family this broken? We are a people terrified of our own family trees. He secretly puts their silver back in their bags. The brothers return to Canaan. They pry Benjamin away from a weeping father. They bring him back to Egypt. The final trap is set. Joseph hides his personal silver cup deep inside Benjamin's sack of grain. The brothers leave the city. The Egyptian guards ride after them. The bags are opened. The metal cup shines in the dirt. The brothers tear their clothes. They are dragged back to the palace. Joseph issues his ruling. The boy who stole the cup stays as a slave. The rest are free to walk away. Look at the brutal brilliance of this setup. Benjamin is the new favorite. He is the last living child of Rachel. He has taken Joseph's place as the center of their father's obsession. The brothers are standing at the edge of the exact same pit. They have the exact same choice. They can abandon the father's favorite. They can eliminate the rival. They can walk away free. But Judah steps forward. Judah is the man who first suggested selling Joseph for 20 pieces of silver. Now, decades later, he stands before the throne. He offers his own life instead. He begs to wear the chains. He refuses to break his father's heart a second time. This is not a political negotiation. It is the breaking of a generational curse. The cycle of jealousy stops right here on the palace floor. Joseph hears the words. His chest heaves. We hide the estrangements, sweep the arguments under the rug, and smile in the photographs while harboring resentments that span decades. He orders the guards out of the room. He weeps so loudly, the Egyptian servants hear it through the heavy doors. I am Joseph. The brothers freeze in sheer terror. But Joseph speaks a truth that reorients the entire history of Israel. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. The family is finally reconciled. The brothers eat at the same table. The famine is survived. But this ancient reunion forces us to confront a terrifying reality about our own lives. Picture the modern family portrait. The flash of a camera in a brightly lit living room. The stiff postures. The matching clothes. The frozen, curated smiles. Now, look at the heavy silence in the passenger seat on the drive home. Listen to the metallic clinking of silverware at a holiday table, where two siblings have not spoken a true word to each other in a decade. Feel the quiet, simmering resentment of the adult child who knows, down in their bones, that they were never the favorite. We read the book of Genesis, and we are horrified by the ancient dysfunction, the stolen blessings, the rival wives, the blood on the coats. But if we are honest, the reason this text makes us so uncomfortable is because the psychological architecture of those goat hair tents feels entirely too familiar. We are a people haunted by the phantom of the perfect family. We build an idealized image. We assume that if the divine is going to build something sacred in the world, he requires unblemished material to start with. In our minds, a pristine lineage of unbroken harmony, mutual respect, and flawless faith. And when our own households inevitably fracture, we hide the wreckage. When the divorce papers are signed in cold ink, when the prodigal stops returning the phone calls, when the father's unequal affection finally tears the siblings apart, we assume the divine has left the building. We assume that our messy, shattered bloodlines disqualify us from any kind of sacred purpose. We assume God only builds his kingdom with whole bricks. But the opening scroll of the Bible stands as a permanent, blazing indictment against that anxiety. Look at the raw material God chose to carry his name into the world. He did not choose a household of moral symmetry. He chose a patriarch who repeatedly compromised his wife's safety to save his own skin. He chose a mother who engineered a massive fraud against her blind husband. He chose a band of brothers who looked at their father's favorite child and calmly calculated the market value of his life. The dysfunction in Genesis is not a flaw in the narrative. It is the entire point of the narrative. God is making a deliberate, structural statement about the nature of his covenant. He does not wait for a family to heal before he steps into the room. He steps into the room, while the shouting is still echoing off the walls, while the favoritism is still bleeding out, while the deception is still active in the dark. We assume grace requires a clean slate. But the opening scroll of the Bible shatters that assumption in its very first chapters. He tethers his reputation to the deceivers, the arrogant favorites, and the bitter, unchosen children. He takes the broken pieces of the Toldot, the generational wreckage, and he weaves it into a redemptive history that outlasts empires. We spend our lives trying to clean up our family trees before we present them to God. We think grace requires a clean slate. But the final outcome of the Genesis project reveals something else entirely. Because the most shocking part of this ancient family tree is not how much trauma it carried. It is what emerged when all the fractured branches were finally laid bare. A patriarch sent his oldest boy into the scorching desert, and God heard the unchosen child crying in the sand. A mother wrapped dead goat skins around her favorite son, and the stolen blessing carried the holy covenant forward. A runaway thief slept on a stone in the wilderness, and the gates of heaven opened directly above his head. An unloved wife weaponized her fertility to win her husband's heart, and from her desperate womb came the priesthood of Israel. A blind father sewed a long-sleeved coat of toxic favoritism, and the hatred it sparked eventually saved nations from starvation. 10 brothers dropped their own flesh and blood into a black pit, and the boy they abandoned became the ruler who fed them. The dysfunction is not a footnote in the story of Israel. It is the soil in which the entire story is planted. A jealous older brother offered to wear chains in an Egyptian palace, and a 400-year curse of familial rivalry was finally broken. Same broken bloodline, same holy God. But here is the part I keep coming back to. The blood of the goat. Jacob wrapped the skins of a slaughtered goat around his arms to deceive his blind father. Decades later, his sons drenched a beautiful coat in the blood of a slaughtered goat to deceive him. The generational trauma was perfectly, devastatingly symmetrical. The pain was inherited. The poison was passed down. And yet, God did not abandon the tents of the deceivers. He stayed in the wreckage until the very men who dug the pit were willing to wear the chains. If you are in a season where looking at your own family tree brings more pain than peace, the book of Genesis is a place to sit. You do not have to hide the fractures. You do not have to pretend the estrangement does not ache. The divine is not waiting for your household to achieve moral symmetry before he steps into the room. The toldot of your life, what your history brings forth, is not limited by the trauma of your parents or the mistakes of your past. To understand what God is actually doing in the mess of these ancient households, you have to look at the architectural framing of Genesis itself. God does not require a clean slate to build a sanctuary. He is entirely capable of working with the shattered stones. And may the God who built his eternal kingdom from the broken homes of Canaan walk with you through the wreckage of yours, and bring forth a harvest of grace out of the very things meant for evil. If this reached something in you, subscribe. Leave a comment, even one word helps. Share this with someone who needs to know that their family history does not disqualify their future. Pray for us as we keep digging into these texts. The author did not just compile random stories of family feuds. He built a deliberate structure. And to see it, the earth beneath his feet is opening its mouth. It is absorbing something it was never meant to drink. You have to look at a single, repeating Hebrew word that stitches this entire broken family tree together. Open the scroll of Genesis and trace your finger down the margins. If you read it in English, you will notice a recurring phrase that seems like nothing more than a formal transition. It reads, "These are the generations of," or sometimes, "This is the history of." It happens exactly 10 times in the book, acting like the structural pillars holding up the entire narrative. But in the original text, that phrase hinges on a single Hebrew word. The word is toldot. It comes from the root yalad, which literally means to bear, to bring forth, or to give birth. When Genesis uses toldot, it is not just introducing a family tree or pointing to a sterile list of names in a dusty archive. It is announcing a harvest. It is telling the reader to pay close attention to what this specific family is about to bring forth into the world. And what the patriarchs bring forth is almost always a catastrophe of their own making. The toldot of Terah introduces his son, Abraham, the man of faith. But look at the architecture of Abraham's household. He is given a cosmic promise that his descendants will outnumber the stars. Yet the waiting stretches out for decades. The silence of the Canaanite desert grows deafening. A father lies in a dim tent. his eyes milky and blind with age. Reaching out his trembling hands, and the biological reality of old age sets in. And so, strategy replaces trust. Sarah hands her Egyptian servant, Hagar, to her husband. A child is born, and the household immediately fractures. You can almost feel the tension suffocating the air inside the tents. You can hear the stinging, sharp words of Sarah's resentment, the heavy silence of Abraham's passivity, and the desperate weeping of a pregnant servant girl, running into the scorching heat of the wilderness with nothing but a leather water skin on her shoulder. God promised a blessing, but Abraham and Sarah engineered a hierarchy. And this is where the darkest seed of the Genesis narrative is planted. It is the sin of unequal affection. The patriarch decides who is favored and who is disposable. The Toldot is not a record of pristine obedience. It is a receipt of human collateral damage. Abraham favors the son of the promise, Isaac, and allows Ishmael to be sent away into the arid wasteland. He draws a line in the sand between the chosen and the unchosen, establishing a rhythm of division that will haunt his family for the next 400 years. The pain of the excluded child becomes the ambient noise of the entire biblical narrative, echoing through every subsequent generation. But that fracture does not end in the desert with Hagar. He feels the rough, hairy garments of a son who is lying to his face, stealing a future meant for another, because the child of promise, Isaac, grows up. He marries, and he brings the exact same poison directly into his own home. The boys grow up in the same camp, but they do not grow up in the same reality. Esau hunts in the open fields. Jacob stays among the tents. Esau smells like dirt and blood. Jacob smells like hearth fire and grain. The father looks at the older boy. The mother looks at the younger. Isaac loves the taste of wild game. Rebekah loves the quiet calculation of the second-born. The household is split straight down the middle. There is no shared table. There is no unified blessing. There is only a zero-sum game of parental affection. If one son wins, the other must lose. Look at the scene in the wilderness. Esau stumbles into camp. He is exhausted. He is starving. The smell of red lentil stew boils over the fire. He begs his brother for a bowl. Jacob does not offer grace. He offers a transaction. He demands the birthright. Esau trades his future for a single meal. Years pass. The dysfunction metastasizes. Isaac lies in his tent. His eyes are milky and useless. He asks for a final meal of wild game so he can pass on his blessing. Rebekah overhears. She moves fast. She slaughters 2 goats. She cooks the meat. She takes the skins of the dead animals and wraps them around Jacob's smooth arms. She puts Esau's unwashed clothes on Jacob's shoulders. A 17-year-old boy sits at the bottom of a dry, black pit. The air is stifling. And if he listens closely, Jacob walks into his father's dark tent. He lies to his face. He claims his brother's name. Isaac touches the rough, dead animal hair on the boy's skin. He smells the scent of the open field on the stolen clothes. He eats the meat. He gives away the blessing. This is not a simple story of sibling rivalry. It is the weaponization of parental love. Abraham fractured his family by sending one son away. Isaac and Rebekah fracture theirs by keeping both sons close, but loving them as rivals. The parents pit the children against each other. The children learn that love is something you must steal. Esau returns. The deception is discovered. He lets out a loud and bitter cry that shakes the entire camp. He begs for a blessing. But the vault is empty. He decides to kill his brother as soon as their father is dead. Jacob runs for his life. The family is broken. The pattern holds. But here is what most people miss about the struggle between these two brothers. Jacob didn't just steal one thing. He stole 2. And to understand the depth of this betrayal, you have to look at the original text. You have to look at 2 Hebrew words that sound almost identical, but hold the power to shatter a family forever. He can hear the muffled sounds of his older brothers sitting down to eat bread just a few yards above him, perfectly deaf to his screaming. We read the story in English and assumed Jacob was just a greedy younger brother trying to get the inheritance. We think he just wanted the money, but the text reveals a fracture much deeper than economics. Look at Genesis chapter 27, verse 36. Esau is standing in the dim tent before his blind father. The deception has been uncovered. The smell of the stolen meal still hangs in the air. Esau is weeping, and he cries out in anger, "Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has cheated me these 2 times. He took away my birthright. And behold, now he has taken away my blessing." Listen to how that sounds in the original language. The word our English Bibles translate as birthright is the Hebrew Bekorah. The word translated as blessing is the Hebrew Barakah. They share the exact same root consonants. They sound almost identical as they roll off the tongue in the ancient text, but they represent 2 entirely different realms of human existence. Bekorah comes from the root bakar, meaning the firstborn or first fruits. It is a legal and economic reality. It dictates that you get the double portion of the tents, the flocks, the silver. It means you are the undisputed head of the clan when the patriarch dies. It is power. Barakah comes from the root barak, which literally means to kneel. It is a relational reality. It is the spiritual favor of the Father. It is the moment a man places his heavy, calloused hands on your head. Murder in a field. Deception in a bedroom. Human cargo traded for pieces of silver. Same bloodline. Same pattern. Speaks your name. And passes the cosmic covenant of God onto your shoulders. It is unconditional approval. Jacob exploited a starving man in a field for the Bekorah, but he dressed up in dead goat skins and lied to a blind man in a bed for the Barakah. This changes how you read the entire conflict. Jacob was not just hungry for power. He was starving for affection. He knew his father loved the older brother more, and he was willing to tear the family apart to hijack the words of validation he was never going to receive naturally. The theft is not just a financial crime. It is the desperate act of an unloved son. If watching these ancient families repeat the same painful patterns is stirring up questions you've never considered, you're exactly who this channel is for. Drop a thought in the comments and hit subscribe, because every week we go deeper into the text than you knew was possible. So, the thief packs his bags and runs. Jacob flees into the desert to escape his brother's sword, heading east toward the house of his uncle Laban. He thinks he is leaving the dysfunction behind, but the pattern is already in his blood. And when he arrives at a dusty well in Haran, he is about to meet 2 sisters who will pull the exact same poison into the next generation. Same devastating rupture. Generation after generation. Most people assume the book of Genesis is a collection of hero stories. Jacob stands by a well in the blistering heat of the day. A young woman walks toward him, guiding her father's sheep through the dust. Rachel is beautiful, and the man who has spent his entire life trying to steal his father's love finally finds someone he wants to give his own to. He works 7 agonizing years for her hand. The wedding feast is prepared. The music plays. The wine flows freely, but in the pitch black of the ancient bridal tent, under the heavy, obscuring fabric of a wedding veil, the deceiver is finally deceived. The sun rises. The light pours into the room. Jacob wakes up, married to the wrong sister. He works another 7 years for Rachel, and the architecture of a generational tragedy is complete. 2 sisters, 1 husband, 2 competing tents, separated by a line of deep, unspoken bitterness. The toxic rhythm of the patriarchs beats again. Abraham favored Isaac over Ishmael. Isaac favored Esau over Jacob. Now Jacob favors Rachel over Leah. He does not hide it. He does not try to balance the scales. He loves the younger and tolerates the older. And you can trace the exact psychological ruin of this household by reading the names of Leah's first 4 children. We read it as a gallery of faith, a blueprint of righteous patriarchs and matriarchs who listened to God and built a holy, unified nation. The names of the boys are not just labels. They are the desperate prayers of an unloved woman. She gives birth to her firstborn and names him Reuben. The Lord has seen my affliction. She gives birth again and names him Simeon. The Lord has heard that I am hated. She has a third and names him Levi. Now this time my husband will be attached to me. It is a devastating rhythm. She is weaponizing her fertility to win a war she has already lost in her husband's heart. This is not a marriage. It is an incubator for resentment. The father's unequal affection bleeds directly into the minds of the children. The boys grow up watching their mother weep. They see the physical distance between the tents. They feel the cold, heavy reality that the man who gave them life does not look at them the way he looks at the children of his favorite wife. They learn that in the household of God's chosen family, love is a scarce resource. It is a zero-sum game. If you are not the favorite, you are nothing. The trauma of the parents becomes the architecture of the children's minds. Leah's sons grow into men who carry the bitter inheritance of the unchosen. They simmer with a quiet, lethal rage,